Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going down, brother?
A bit grumpy.
Yeah, you're fasting. Day three. Day three is I always find day three the toughest day.
Yeah, for sure. Day one, easy. Day two, I woke up yesterday morning though with tons of energy. That was day two. But yeah, day three today, all I'm thinking about is food.
Well, yeah. That makes sense.
So, yeah, but that wasn't happening yesterday or on day one. It wasn't really much of a thought, apart from I cooked Amelia dinner. Dinner's kind of my job. So I cooked Amelia dinner, obviously, last night and Monday. Didn't enter my head much. But then last night, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could just eat this.
Yeah.
And then tonight, yeah, it's going to be a test tonight. Tonight's day three, so I wasn't too sure I was going to go for 3 days or 5. But we'll see.
Teach their own, man. I get it. I had a sick child, as every father or parent knows. Man, I was just up all night, and it always takes me a long time to fall back asleep. I haven't checked my Oura ring, but I'm sure it says go back to sleep. Basically, it makes it always a little bit tougher when you have that. But it's part of the game. It's part of the game. You sign up for kids, or even if you don't sign up for kids, you got them. Sick kids are part of the deal, and we brought him into bed, and I'm not a cuddler, and the little dude was just kicking my back, and I was like, okay, it's 3 a.m. I'm just gonna get up and make coffee and get to it, and call it a day. Well, awesome, Tim. Well, today one of the things that I want to talk about or put onto the table is the concept of SMV, sexual market value. Now, we've talked about this. You and I have talked about this before. And so with the SMV coming through, it is something that we want to look at. Tim, are you still there? There you go.
Yep.
Got you back. You were paused there for a second. So I was like, oh, wait, do we stop? Let's just roll with this. So SMV, and I wrote a post about this, and I think it's really interesting because I see this happen quite often. I was talking to my wife about it last night and going through. So the concept of SMV, or the sexual market value, I'm going to give people a little bit of background on this, right? So your sexual market value is like your stock. It's like a stock. What is the value that you are worth or represent in the marketplace sexually, right? If you were to go out on your own. So I know you and Amelia would never go out on your own, but if you would, right? What is Tim's worth? What is Amelia's worth? And typically it's talked about on a scale of 1 to 10. So obviously Amelia's a 10, you're a 10. It's a no-brainer. But when you look at where people are and the discrepancies, this is what causes a lot of issues in marriages and relationships. Because if there's a large discrepancy, and I'll go into more detail on how this is actually formulated, if there's a large discrepancy, then there's a gap. And people don't like to talk about this, right? Because, it's physicality is not everything. Well, it's a lot. And there's a lot of reasons from an anthropological and biological perspective of why this is. Now, for women, almost exclusively for women, it's all physicality, right? The physical looks, or what their sexual market value is, right? What their number is. And there's been a lot of science behind this on what is the perfect figure, the perfect body, the space between the eyes, the nose, the lips. You've seen this before. Also, if a woman has big breasts, usually that means she can, bear children or feed kids. So she's very fertile. Hip to waist ratio, right? Can she actually birth a kid with a kid past the birth canal? There's all these things that are reasons we're attracted to certain physical traits with a woman coming through. So a woman gets hers based on her physicality, her age as well, right? Men are innately attracted to younger women, typically, bell-shaped curve stuff, but because they're more fertile, right? So, for example, on the SMV scale, a typical, let's just say 26-year-old woman who, compared to her peers at 26, is a 6 on the scale. Now, if she goes to a bar, this 26-year-old who's a 6, and she goes to a bar and it's a bunch of 60-year-olds, men and women, she is automatically pretty much an 8, right? Coming in there if it's all singles. Even if the 60-year-old women are looking smoking hot, she automatically goes up a few rungs because she's younger, But the real reason is, from a biological perspective, is because it signals to everybody that she's more fertile. And we don't talk about that in a cultural sense. For men, it's a little different, right? Men, physicality is still super important, the way we look, right? And the ideal male body supposedly is close to like the sculpture of David, right? The Michelangelo did. But also what comes into play for us is social status, right? Because if we have a higher social status, if you think back into the savannah, right? When we were tribesmen, social status meant we could get more things, we get help from others, et cetera. Our survival rate was better. But then also money, right? Because we can protect people, we can protect our families. Money buys a lot, right? That we can provide food during hard times, et cetera. And then physical strength. So not just aesthetic looks, right? Having 6-pack abs, but also the ability to defend, the physicality, the strength. You can defend against another male attacker. The better chance if you go to war, you're not going to get maimed. If a lion comes into the camp, a stronger man has a better chance than a weaker man. And a woman with kids doesn't want to take care of a man that's been maimed in war or by a lion. She wants someone who's going to protect her. So all of these things play into this bowl that's called the sexual market value, your SMV. So before I dive into more of this, what are your thoughts so far?
If I was a woman, I'd be surrounding myself with a certain type of women. Easy win, right? No, I mean, it reminds me of hypergamy. Obviously, feeds into that idea.
But yeah,
it's kind of beneath hypergamy, because hypergamy is obviously a little bit more about what women look for. And if you're ticking these boxes, then obviously by default, your stock price, if you will, goes well. Market value goes up. It's interesting because I think for guys, and I guess social status kind of ticks this box a little bit. But I think for guys, yeah, they might think the body piece. But I think for the most part, they think the financial piece, which, is important. But I think more important is the ability to provide in other ways for the women. But like you say, I think if you've got the social status anyway, you might then assume that you're successful to a degree, quote unquote, professionally. But, for women, and I hear this every day when I talk to the guys, like, Tim, she's got everything she wants. I've gone out there. She doesn't have to work. We can go anywhere we want in the world. We have a lake house. We've built our dream house. We've got, obviously start listing off all these different possessions. And I've done this for us. I've done this, this is our dream, but really it's often the guy's dream. And, the woman often says, look, I don't care about the money. I don't care about all this stuff. I just, she doesn't say this, but she wants her emotional needs met, right? And part of that is the physical strength and safety and the other things that feed into that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of factors that go into this, really. And so there's a couple things that come up with what you're saying, and then I want to go back to another point. But I think initially a lot of women are impressed by, men we think we need to provide financially and, because we all know the stories, right? And I'm a believer that most, what do you call them? Man, I haven't slept, right? So, but when you have most generalities are actually true, example, white guys can't dance. Well, I can't dance. So just as an example, but when you think about it, when you think about a rich man and a young, hot woman, you think, he's got money, of course, right? You don't think much of it. It's not like, oh, no. She's with him because he's really spiritual. Oh, no. You just think, he's got money. Well, you think that because it happens a lot. And when I lived in Santa Barbara, California, you saw it all the time, where there would be, basically women coming with sugar daddies and the guys being open to it. There's websites that do this where you can find sugar daddies, right? They're dating sites. And I knew one woman who was on it, and specifically to find a rich man, at which she did. So my point being is that it still is an issue. But one of the things I've noticed, and when I started really going into this with one of the guys, is I started to look back through my, the 2 decades I've been coaching people, and I started to look at relationship issues with men who are complaining about their wives and their wives who have had emotional affairs, or it just, we're interested in sex. And I started looking at it more of a long game type scenario. And then again, just through my head, it's not like I had a spreadsheet or anything. And one of the things I noticed, Tim, was that I started ranking people on their SMV, right? Or what they thought, what I think they thought their SMV was in the real world. And one guy comes to mind in particular, a lawyer, right? Very successful lawyer, but very out of shape, nice guy, kind of funny, but his social status was, but he was probably a 5 on the SMV. Okay. His wife, his new bride, was probably an 8 or a 9. And when there's a gap that big, there's a vacuum that gets created. And this is where the I love you, but I'm not in love with you thing comes up a lot. And I started to see this as a trend when I started to look back at what the guys would say. And when they would talk about their relationships and they would talk about what was going on for them in these relationships. Right. And so the idea here is, if I'm going to use you and Amelia as an example, and I'll let you guys rate yourselves if you want to, but let's just say you and Amelia are both 10s, of course, but let's just say hypothetically, you're both 8s, right? In this hypothetical theory. And I know I'm dancing on thin ice here. That's all good. Let's say Amelia's a 9 and you're an 8. Okay. Still good, or vice versa. But if you're a 7 and Amelia's a 9, there's too much gap there. And what's going to happen in this scenario, you a 7, Amelia 9, is that Amelia's going to notice that there's a gap, that she has more social. That's where hypergamy comes in, right? She's going to be looking to upgrade. But also, and Tim, I know because you and I have had conversations about this, that you've observed this, other men start to notice that guy's playing too high, right? And they start to step in. They start to flirt with the guy's wife, the guy's girlfriend, because they know that they have a higher sexual value. So in other words, if another 8 or a guy of an 8 or a 9 comes in, again, you're a 6, Amelia's a 9 in this scenario, or an 8, whatever. If another guy of a higher SMV comes in, he will start flirting with your wife, even unconsciously, because he knows that you're playing way above the field that you should be playing on. And so this is where it gets really interesting. And I was looking back again at the men that we serve and other guys that go through the program and what we've talked about. And this SMV comes up time and time again, and I think what you can get out of this is where are you on your rank? What would your stock be? And your stock varies between location, right? Now I'll give myself a 6, but if I was in Santa Barbara, where, in Santa Barbara, I was never out of shape, like not really out of shape, here, I moved here and I was like, beer, pizza, yum. It was just a different aesthetic norm, but if I was going back to Santa Barbara now, it'd be like a 4, right? So it's just different where you go through it and but you can go to some other place in the world and all of a sudden you could be a 9. So it depends on your environment as well. But when you look at your partner, where's your partner? And this is what happens often when a man starts working out a lot and taking care of his health. Usually the woman will step in line and do the same. Or if she doesn't, he starts looking elsewhere, the secretary, the barista at Starbucks or the girl at the gym. And that's where affairs start to slip in because that gap happens, right? But this also goes the other way. And we hear this a lot, where guys are so focused on business and killing it at work and bringing in the money. They're out hunting, come home, they start drinking or whatever. They're just not taking care of their health or their self, but their wife is working out. She's doing Pilates, what have you. She's taking care of self first and health second. There becomes a gap. And that gap becomes too late. There becomes a vacuum. That vacuum creates a space for another man to step into.
I mean, look, it's inevitable. There's going to be gaps at times, right?
For sure.
They're just there.
Yeah, so
permission to. Sorry, I was just saying. Yeah, a week ago, I'd give myself permission. Sorry, I've moved into a new place and the connection's gone a bit crappy right now. Sorry, guys. But anyway,
Tim, we're losing you here, so I'm going to jump in and just talk about
and drink.
So that there are times where there's gaps, right? And there are times when gaps happen, and that's okay. And oftentimes, even if the gap is big, so using my buddy, well, he became my friend, the guy I was mentioning, who's a lawyer, who became my buddy, is his wife stayed with him for religious reasons. Right now, this is all panned out for him. He took control of his health. We worked together, and he got his body, everything great. Right, his SMV went up like a stock. You invest in a business, and you invest, time, capital, resources, etc., and working with them. His SMV jumped really high, up to where hers was maybe even a little bit above, because he's on the upward trend. She was there naturally, but he's working on it, so he's got growth behind him, and that's what it's another thing, guys. Your SMV goes up if you're working on it. So, for example, if you're a 6 or a 7, you just got to be real with yourself. If you're a 6 or a 7, but you're at the gym and you're doing personal development, and maybe you're working on your business, you may be perceived as an 8 or a 9 because people are forward thinking like, wait, Tim's hitting it hard. He's working on his personal growth. He's working on his development. He's going to be higher, right? That's a stock you want to invest in because it's a growing stock, right? You're going to get more value out of it. It's the same thing with SMV. Right. And it's the same thing that goes for the women when you talk to them, and they may stay with their man because marital vows, religious reasons. But that's where you get, again, we hear this, I wouldn't say a lot, but we hear it often, is my wife says, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And a lot of this comes out, guys, between not knowing how to use the hidden motives technique, the live like a king system, and the alpha rise and shine. Those three put together, right, really, really add to this, right? You're going to raise your SMV by doing any one of those. And we start guys off when they come through the activation method. We start them off with a whole host of things. One of the things that we're introducing is actually a scale where guys can self-evaluate them in terms of their fitness, right? And you just self-evaluate. There's a whole list of things you can do. And then you have ranks, just like martial arts. Are you a white belt, a blue belt, a black or a red belt? And they can list themselves through a host of batteries. And then how do you raise that? So we're giving them a path. Then the alpha rise and shine, guys. This is your morning routine, right? Part of that is getting attuned, right? And getting your mind right. Part of that's getting your fitness right. That right there is going to bump up your SMV. Then the hidden motives technique. Now, all of a sudden, you're able to communicate in a way that's far superior than 99.9% of the men out there in the world. Boom, huge jump in your SMV. Because also for a guy, it's how good of a father and a husband you are, right? That contributes to your SMV. Just think back, like in your 20s, if you were the guy that was playing with the kids, even though you didn't have kids, all the other women were watching you. And they're like, he's going to be a good father, And if you were the kind of guy who's like, kids, get away from me. Yeah, it didn't work, right? Sure, the bad boys would have the one night stands, but the women were all, biologically, they're looking for someone to exchange DNA with, right? At the end of the day, to procreate. So these factors all come in when you have them here. And they live like a king system. Like you have to have these things in place to really raise like a stock. Something that, Tim, that you and I do and we talk about often is, more so investing in the stock market is I like to invest in businesses because I can jump into the business if there's a problem and do something about it, right? I can add my skills and expertise to help raise the value of a business. So if I buy at a business at a low point, but I see the value going up, then I can add and contribute to it. It's the same thing in a relationship. If your wife can see that you're working on yourself, you're in a program to better yourself as a man, you're exercising, you're taking care of your health, right? Self first, health, right? You're going through these things. Your SMV automatically is going to go up. Thus, attraction goes up. And these are all really, really important things.
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, Tim, your internet keeps cutting out, man. So modern day issues.
Yeah.
So, guys, I'm gonna round this up because this is a topic I've seen coming in and coming out. We're gonna be writing about more of this. So if you're on the email list, you'll see some of this stuff coming out where we can give you guys some tips on what you can do. But if you notice that, if you look at it and you're really honest, and you look at your SMV, you rate your wife. Don't tell her number, by the way. If you rate your wife and you rate yourself, what would your wife get right now on the open market? And you know how guys are. I mean, come on, I have a buddy of mine that says any port in a storm, right? If there's a storm in his sexual life, any port will work, right? So what would your wife get on the open market, and what would you get? What's the honest terms here? Now, if you have more than a 2-point gap, a 2-point or more gap, you got a problem. Either way, you got a problem because you're going to start straying or she is. If you're really honest with yourself, what I've found, Tim, is most guys rate themselves 1 to 2 points higher than they really are. 1 to 2 points higher than they really are. And it's a joke, but you see this all over the place. A woman looks in the mirror that's super hot. She sees a fat, ugly woman. A fat guy looks in the mirror. He sees a buff, studly dude, right? So men, we tend to overrate ourselves. So whatever number you give yourself, guys, be honest. Take it down a couple notches and see if there's a gap. Second thing, take immediate action. Give it into the Alpha Rise and Shine, your morning routine. Get into a workout program. Get into a personal growth program, whether it be the activation method, which obviously I'm biased, but I'm only biased because I think it's the best program out there. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that. It would be a disservice. But get into something. Do something to raise your stock, raise your value. Look, your wife, your kids, your friends, they're investing time and energy into you, love into you, right? Are they getting a return on their investment? Right? Are they going to get a return? You want to make sure they do that. Think of it that way. We're guys, it's analytical. Most of us, if we're business leaders, we're investing all the time, whether it be in the markets, whether it be in our business. But start investing in yourself and take that time. So guys, what I want you to do is rate your wife. Don't tell her. Rate yourself. See if there's a gap and then take immediate action to not only fill that gap, but exceed it, right? Be a point ahead. Right? Why not? We're leaders. We're alphas. We want to rise and keep rising together. So gentlemen, that is a wrap for us today at the Powerful Man Show. As always, we invite you, if it's your first time, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus and pick up a free training. And of course, if you've been with us for a while, mean a lot to myself and Tim personally if you just go ahead and leave us an honest review on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or wherever you're watching this. So guys, have an amazing week. Remember, always take action in the moment and insight. We'll see you next time on the Powerful Man Show.